Howdy, howdy. Here we are on another
Welcome.
episode. A spirit, soul, body reset. We're still trying to figure out how to do this. We're like, who's going to open? Are you going to open? I'm going to open. What are we going to talk about? Is that why we're... Yes. It's a process.
We might
So
touch,
we'll let you in on the process.
yeah, we might touch on process.
It's a good thing. Yeah. I mean,
one of our
it takes a while to
topics
figure out
today.
the process. So
Being willing to be engaged in
yes.
the process.
So what are we doing with this spirit, soul, body reset?
One thing we're doing is we are working with people so that they don't stay stuck.
Stuck. Super frustrated to be stuck.
Super frustrated. Yeah, most of the people that we are going to be able to help are people who are sick and tired of being where they are. They are looking for solutions.
Yeah.
Often outside the box solutions that they've already tried what mainstream society is selling and pimping, and they have not seen fruit from that. So they need something more. They're looking for real solutions that work for real people.
I guess it's one of the reasons we're doing something like this is because we've had so many personal successes in going against the status quo and mainstream, and like, oh, you have to do it this way, or this always does this. And when we've questioned it, people are like, wow, that was not true.
Yeah.
Good thing I didn't listen to that, you know?
Yeah. One example I can think of off the bat is when I was having symptoms of gallbladder issues and gallstones. Instead of, gallbladder surgery removal is the most common surgery in the US.
A lot of people do that, yeah.
Because it's so painful, and that is the solution.
The most pain I've ever seen you in when you're having gallstone issues.
Yeah, and the medical field solution is surgery.
Yeah.
But
you passed out from the pain, didn't you? Should we tell that story?
How in depth do you want to get?
Not super in depth. We're on a cruise.
Last day
of the cruise, or
all of our
coming in
were
from Mexico,
away.
and you felt all of a sudden you're throwing up from pain. You're just feeling. It was the morning, really.
I don't think it was Mexico.
We're coming back from Mexico into San Diego.
Yeah. I thought it was a different cruise.
Well, I guess we're fortunate.
Josh was with us, so you're
cruises.
right. He was 7. Josh was with us on that cruise.
There you go.
And I felt like I was having symptoms of a migraine headache, and was up all night tossing my cookies.
Yeah, it was bad.
Bad headache.
And you had never had. I'd never known you to deal with that ever.
So it was
like something
I had never
very...
dealt with that. If I had had a migraine, it was like it would be over. As soon as if I got sick, it would be over. That migraine would be ended. But anyway, so
I made a phone call because my friend Dr. Cheryl Townsley
was on the cruise. I actually begged Stephen, call Cheryl.
Call Cheryl. It helps to have really smart friends. Freaky smartly. I'm like, this is what's going on. What do you think? She goes,
Cheryl Townsley.
She goes, well, what time did it start? And I tell her, she goes, oh, it's like liver gallbladder. The pain will end at whatever time. I'm like, really?
But she didn't say it would end at a certain time until after they came over to our room and were there when I ended up passing out.
But she did say something like,
she did.
This will probably end at this certain time of day because your organs have different clocks on them.
Reset, yeah.
She was right.
And she said she put me on the path that she had taken with her own gallbladder issues, which was to do a gallbladder flush, which you can Google gallbladder flush, gallstone flush. And I utilized that tool.
Yeah.
And my symptoms went down, and then they went away. So usually when people start having gallbladder issues, they start off bad and they only get worse. And for me, the worst attack I ever had was the first one.
Yeah.
So I could see difference. So anyway, we don't have to go in. I mean, this is an example of outside the box solution, because I didn't want to have surgery. I wanted to get closer to addressing the root cause, and first of all, I wanted to get rid of those symptoms. So
So we can talk about it. A lot of people, we can go into more detail on that on an episode. We can talk about childbirth.
I still have my gallbladder too. That was 13 years ago, 14.
Childbirth.
Well, that
non-drug. I mean, that's a controversial one. Controversial? I don't know if controversial is the right word. There's so much guilt and shame associated with it. And I guess some things we've done well is when someone suggested a better potential alternative,
tried it.
We're open to it, and we tried it. So my mom had 3 kids in military hospitals with no epidurals, no pain, because she'd read a book, like even way back then, Childbirth Without Fear by Grantley Dick Reed. And my mom goes, now that you're pregnant, you should read this. And we're like, well, that sounds like a better option. And it kind of made sense, everything. So we did it. And
we actually paid, we had no money. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money at that time. We were newlyweds, but we paid over $300 to have a teacher come out.
Coach. So we paid for help.
She taught us every week for 6 or 8 weeks what to do, how to
circumspect for how much we paid.
But I mean, how we wouldn't.
We were willing to invest.
We wouldn't have been able to understand how important it was if your mom hadn't turned us onto it, and if we wouldn't have been open, wouldn't have been able to prioritize something like that.
Yeah. And we were diligent. I mean, we practice.
I cannot tell you how many people have asked me how to have pain-free childbirth, but no one has gone through that class.
A lot of people ask us for that advice, and don't think anyone's ever really followed through on that. Interesting.
Although I do know other people who have taken Bradley who haven't had good results.
Yeah, it's true. That's one of the sad things. We know
it's not guaranteed.
Yes,
and it's not a contest. It's not about who's toughest. And so I think, I think that the childbirth thing it's a great example, but it's not like we're hardcore. You can only have a baby this way and be successful.
Yeah.
It just shows that there are outside the box solutions everywhere, and not that everyone's always going to be a home run hit, but if you keep moving in that direction with your life, you're likely to find solutions for things that other people think there are no solutions for beyond, traditional techniques. So,
my mom is a good example too.
I think that's a really good story.
My mom was diagnosed with breast lymphatic and uterine cancer, was told, if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, you will be dead in 6 months. Well, my mom
her doctor told her.
Didn't really do anything the doctor told her to. And what she did is a good template. She prayed and asked for wisdom. She goes, God, what do I do? Not, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, well, how about me, right?
Yeah.
And she felt led to get involved in a very particularly aggressive nutritional protocol. Dr. William Kelly's.
She got rid of all chemicals.
She got real serious about everything, and she also started increasing her faith. And
that was back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s, and she got real clear about what faith is. It's another great subject we can talk about. I think a lot of people get off on that. And long story short, didn't tell anyone else she had cancer. And one day she walked into a church, and someone came up to her and said, "Oh, you didn't tell me you had cancer." Well, we're here sitting here praying, and I saw an angel come and take something out of your body. Mm-hmm. And she's a very healthy 85-year-old woman today.
I think one of the best parts of that story is that she figured out where her faith was, and she knew her faith was not actually in an instant miracle. It was partially in being proactive with her health, with the therapy, and the other part was she felt like she could believe God for 2 cancer cells continually to be dying.
Yeah. Just
as constant math happening. She just could sense that. And she also had a real sense of being settled in her spirit. Like she went outside. She talks about looking at the moon and thinking, it is more likely for the moon to fall out of the sky than for me not to be healed.
Yeah, that's true.
And so she walked it out in the way that she could. Like she didn't have faith
She
for
had
everybody
clarity
else's.
on God's will.
Well, and she didn't have faith in enough to overcome other people's doubt and unbelief and suggestions for what she should do.
You gotta be careful about who you share your visions of doing things differently and better with.
Not that we have to go through everything alone.
Yeah.
But
like when we decided, we're gonna do our
natural childbirth,
people will go out of their way to tell you the worst stories they have ever heard in their entire life.
Laugh at you and mock you.
Just, why do they do that? It's weird. It's just super weird. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not about natural childbirth or not getting cancer treatment. It's kind of about like when you come to that point of saying, what do I need to do? Will you be open to what presents itself to you as your solution?
Yeah.
And will you embrace it and run with it?
Yeah. What about healthy children? I mean, we managed to raise 3 children with no doctor visits due to illness.
Yeah.
And how many times have people really asked for and taken our advice on exactly how to do that? I'm always surprised at that, because it's a couple of really simple things that if we were going to have another baby, that we know that we would do, right? Mm-hmm. Because we saw them work consistently. And it's just strange. But maybe someone out there will be interested and go, yes, tell me what I need to do to have beautiful, healthy babies who genetic information is properly expressed and optimized.
Yeah. So. And it's stuff that's not really sexy. It's stuff that's not really popular. I mean, it's getting a little bit sexier now, but like when you think about, I really don't want my child to have sugar. So you don't keep sugar in the house. You encourage people at the nursery not to give your kids the graham crackers. I mean, you're kind of the bummer. You're kind of the grandma. Like, you're like the one that people are like, oh, this mother.
No, the grandmas are the one giving the cookies. I think you got that mixed up.
Not about the cookies. I'm just saying you're kind of an old person. You're not like this happy-go-lucky doing what everybody else
grumpy old
is
lady
doing. You're kind of like, I've made my decision. This is important. And you're kind of a stick to your guns kind of a person with certain things. And it's more about like being diligent, consistent, and like sticking with it, even when it's not popular and all the kids' friends eat differently. I mean, it's just,
we were fairly strict with our kids, and my mother, if she watches this, still love you. My mother said, I think you're being too strict on your kids. And I was like, they outnumber us. If they don't behave, we can't leave the house. Years later, when she was like, your children are so wonderful, they're perfect. I'm like, you do remember her that used to criticize me? She goes, no, I would never do that. I'm like, okay.
Well, I think that it's what we're doing now is beyond our personal lifestyle choices, because we help people who come from different walks of life. And so we're one of those, we're the parents who are like, you need to do what's best for your family, as far as like we homeschool, but that's not what's best for everyone.
Very true.
And so what we really feel called to do is to be a helping hand to people who are stuck. And so a lot of times I feel like women find you and people find you you work with men and women all over the world, with people who they feel like there is an answer, but they need help connecting to it. Because you can't work with someone who doesn't believe there's an answer.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Well, those people don't ask for help.
Right.
Do they?
They don't really ask for real help, or
they'll accept help if it's offered, just because
they don't want to be alone.
Kind of looks weird if you outright say you don't want to get better.
I think you're getting off track.
Yeah.
Not if someone isn't ready for a solution, you can't help them, whether they are asking or or not.
You gotta
Whether
meet people where
sometimes
they're
it's
at
your
and
idea.
start encouraging them.
The biggest
you know?
problem is when early on we thought when it was our idea, we would try to help people who didn't really want help. And then
That's a lot of work with very little return on investment.
Yes.
Unsolicited health advice is among the most unwelcome advice out there.
Mm-hmm. So working with people who believe there's an answer, but for whatever reason had trouble connecting with it, and they've come across us in one way or another. So you have made many YouTube videos, putting information out there that that just keeps pointing back to hope, pointing back to solutions, pointing back to answers, pointing back to possibilities of moving beyond. And through those videos and through different Facebook groups, you've been able to connect with hundreds and hundreds of people and really just kind of be that bridge for them to get from where they are and to get over that hump, whatever it was. So why don't you tell a story of that?
Well, I think first I want to tell an analogy of, if I go to get in my car right now, love our car, it's paid for. Yes. Should last us another couple 100,000 miles. But if I go to get in the car right now and the battery cable is loose, not even disconnected, just loose, when I go to start the engine breaks, nothing's working, no radio, no nothing, right? And if I look at the symptoms, it can be a little alarming. Mm-hmm. And if I made a really fatal error, I would just scrap it for metal because nothing works, right? And yet, the solution can be simple,
Like what?
Sometimes
I mean, on a car, like you're talking about, like a spark plug could be disconnected.
Yeah,
and
spark
someone's
plug.
Like,
well, like for example, on that
away.
car, in reality, the gas gauge is a little off.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the fuel pump was bad, and I was about to tear the whole car apart until I realized that can't be it because no one else deals with that in this car. Anyways, we figured out it was a fuel gauge. This car was out of gas. That's why it wasn't working. I mean, could there be any more simple solution than, oh, maybe you should put some gas in? But
before we knew
it didn't work. When it wasn't working, I was like super stressed out about it,
Before we knew there was a problem with the gas gauge, it died a couple times, and we were like, what is wrong? Oh my gosh, it was just out of gas.
Yeah, exactly. So I find that a lot of times with people, even if the symptoms in their life are alarming, it's not difficult to return them to their original design. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, sometimes the answers are simple.
You're not broken. There's just maybe something that needs to be connected again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it can be a lot of different things. I love the thing you often say is that there's more than one way to add up to 10. Mm-hmm. Right? I think as if the people watching this are kind of on a journey of improving their holistic health, sometimes I think it's good to realize that, if you go to a chiropractor, they're like, oh, what you really need is chiropractic adjustment. That will fix everything. Not all chiropractors are like that, but occasionally, you go to the colon therapist, they're like, well, clean colon fixes everything. Or a certain supplement or a certain protocol. And really, one of life skills that I think we'll try and teach people is to get good at making their own decisions, get good at figuring out what's right for you, not what everyone else thinks you need to do, because that will probably be the best solution.
Why don't you tell a quick story about getting someone unstuck?
Yeah. Well, it's the work I do is to use muscle testing to track down specifically kind of blown emotional fuses for people, and kind of if I blow the main fuse to my house, like your Vitamix often will blow a fuse, and for the Vitamix to keep working, I have to just go in the garage, find the fuse, flick it back, and it will work again. And so as people go through life, certain specific things will blow a fuse for them, and if you can track it down accurately enough, you can reset it. And that's a very simplistic explanation. There's more videos on my website on how I do that. But I remember working with a young woman who was so terrified of being alone that she said, you ask her 0 to 10, she goes, it's a 30. Mm-hmm. And in 45 minutes, we tracked down 4 specific things. It was second time she tried to kill herself, first time she tried to kill herself, first time she got kicked out of her house at 9. I was like, yeah, what kind of whacked house do you grow up in? Yeah. But then again at 12. And when we reset all those, I asked her, how are you doing now? She goes, about a 2. And I was like, this makes sense. I go, well, imagine you're home alone at night and the power goes out. What would you going to do? Because this is like the worst thing I could think of right off the top of my head. She's like, I might have to call someone. I'm like, okay, sounds good to me, right? You know, and every time I would see her later, she'd say, well, I like spending time with myself now. So it was, you know, I was talking about dramatic. I mean, and she was purposely living a gay lifestyle, not because she felt that was how she was originally wired, but she said, I don't have to be alone.
Yeah, so I was going to point out.
You can take people who have massive anxiety and be like, oh, plain, no problem. Or I worked on a young girl who was terrified of dogs, and 45 minutes later, petting my pit bull mix as she walks out my front door. So change can happen fast. Sometimes it's slower. Sometimes you need to just develop new habits, not just reset things. Anyways, is that what you wanted?
Yeah, just a couple, like just little stories that that show. It's not just showcasing what you do, but it's also showcasing the individual being willing to try at least something new, being willing to at least look for a different solution.
Yeah.
Being willing to think outside the box and connect with other people who think outside the box. I mean, usually there is a yes if you know how to look for one, and if you continue, if you don't take no for an answer, you know, usually there is a way.
Here's a good example though. Like, take your parents. We've done a lot of sessions for your parents, put them on a lot of supplements over the years. But the best results they got, and done a lot of emotional work for them, all that, you know, and with some success. But the best results is when you worked with them and they're always on some diet. But when you work with them
disciplined around food
individually and coach them and tweak things just a bit, the change in their health has been stunning this year. I mean, what your mom, how much weight has she lost?
So what I've been doing is helping people who feel stuck with specifically with weight, type 2 diabetes, illnesses and things that can come along with weight, autoimmune type of presentations in the body, fatigue, food allergies, you know, things like that. So I work with people and I basically offer them a solution, which is has quite a bit to do with restricting carbohydrate intake and allowing the body to run
and when you eat too.
And there's a lot of other factors, but allowing the body to run on fat instead of glucose.
Yeah.
And I found that when you do that, a lot of issues that we used to spend a lot of time and basically encourage other people to spend a lot of money on supplements would resolve on their own. So with
I mean, we're taking fewer supplements than we have in our whole marriage.
Yeah.
You're supposed to take more when you get older, right? Maybe we're getting
Who's
younger.
older?
Oh, maybe that's the issue. Maybe we're getting younger.
Well, it's not even just about the
way.
supplements. It's like about the technique of like, how are we applying our energy, right? And so I found that if you can reduce the carbohydrate intake, you can also reduce inflammation in the body, and especially in the case of type 2 diabetes, which leads to greater all causes of mortality. Basically, people are more likely to pass away for many more reasons if they're dealing with type 2 diabetes than if they're not. And so
it's just insulin.
It's insulin, and it's also your fat cells being overstuffed and inflamed. And so
we'll do a video about what is insulin and insulin sensitivity. I think because you explained it really well, and even though I've heard many people explain it, I got it better when you explained it. And if people can get that, then everything you're like, oh, got it.
You can't act like what you put in your mouth is not going to impact you on a holistic level.
Yeah.
What you put in your mouth is going to impact everything. And that's just reality. And so we've thought that to eat healthy, it's really just follow the food pyramid. You know, don't eat too much fat, don't eat too much animal products. Make sure you have a lot of fiber and grains and a tremendous amount of fruits and vegetables, unlimited fruits and vegetables. And so either people have given up hope and they're just eating whatever fast food and whatever tastes good, or they're trying their best and they're finding that it isn't working because the food pyramid is inherently flawed. Yeah. Because we weren't created to eat large amounts of grains and sugars, etc. And that's not really good fuel for our bodies. So my parents, they were motivated, and I was getting great results. And so I was able to just coach them through the different challenges that they were going to be going through and that they went through in the carbohydrate reduction phase, because it's a little bit uncomfortable. There's a little bit of an adjustment period. Yeah. And as I
want to point out one thing is that you made a huge investment in educating yourself on not just the broad things, but the finer, minute details of how to tweak what you did.
Yeah, because,
and well worth it, because I mean, your parents, because amazing.
I knew if I was going to be working with someone, for example, who was on insulin injectable, that their blood sugar numbers can come down rather quickly, and I wanted to be able to guide them through what that could look like and feel like, and what their numbers might be, and how to make adjustments, because my dad was basically, he was able to go off of insulin within 2 weeks. And so, but that was, I mean, that was like a hand holding day, you know, it was just like, let's try this and check your glucose all day long. But yeah, so.
And your mom climbing up steps. I mean, this time last year, she couldn't go up and down steps.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she's like, oh, up and down, no more pain. I mean, like her hip pain had been going on for years, and we put her on a lot of fabulous supplements, right? And I mean, really, they were good, and they're like, oh, this will help you.
But we just can't act like the food is not a huge piece of the puzzle. And I'm talking about going beyond like food allergies. Oh, maybe you have an allergy to this or an allergy to that, and you need to take it out of your diet. I'm talking about food as a whole being something that nourishes you and energizes you, and not being something that's taking away from you or that's blocking nutrients from absorbing in your body. So yeah,
maybe it's shifting, because I think your parents would have considered themselves eating healthy in general. They're always seemingly proactive on not putting too much junk in their body. Is it maybe a shift on looking at food as a powerful tool versus just something that you vaguely should follow? Does that make sense? I mean,
I think it's knowing what is actually beneficial and what isn't, and then what it costs. Like when you start to actually realize what it's costing to eat that sugary bite, suddenly it's too expensive. This is costing me 10 years of my life, 20, time with my grandkids, the ability to go up and down stairs, the ability to play with my grandkids and babysit them, my mental health, my actual, did you know that a lot of cognitive issues like Alzheimer's and things like that is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes?
Diabetes of the brain.
Because the brain can no longer run on glucose, and you're not offering it anything else to run on.
We could do an episode on
mental health.
Mental brain, fueling your brain. Yeah. Nutritionally.
So they were ready for a change, and I was super excited actually, because my dad and my being able to, I just love my parents so much. So just being able to offer them some support and just to be part of their process of their health journey was actually a huge reason why I went ahead and invested in the training and the certifications that I ended up investing in. So it was like working with someone who's looking and who believes there's a solution, and helping them to get to basically become empowered, helping them to get over the hump of where they are to where they want to go, to where they understand and they have a comprehension of what they want, what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. They feel empowered. They go into the store, they're not confused. They know exactly what they need to walk out with in order to continue to maintain this health. And so, so it's there. Those are great examples of what we're doing here. And then I think, so you're kind of working in the soul. I'm kind of working in the body with these, you're working in the emotional, I'm working on physical. I'm like, this is about what you're going to be putting in your body. And then we both work on some physical stuff too, with working out. And then we want to also bring in some of the spiritual piece. And because part of being unstuck involves the God piece of the puzzle.
Unconditional love, killing the shame and guilt.
Which is a big part of your practice with clients.
Yeah.
And it's a big part of
what makes everything else easier,
One of my main callings,
my clients,
with worship and writing songs and connecting to the Lord in that way.
You consistently put guilt and shame and bitterness and hate into your life, the amount of therapies and supplements and whatever to try and counteract it is you'll never catch up with it. Similarly, maybe someday we'll tell a story about the guy who spent 6 years in a Nazi concentration camp with no evidence physically or emotionally that he'd been there, because he decided to walk in love. So he wasn't on, obviously, the right diet, supplements, exercise program, all that wrong. And the spirit of the spirit soul body part was so powerful that it pushed everything else aside. So
gratitude
and love and forgiveness and all that. Anyways, awesome. Well, I'm excited.
Me too.
Be fun to do together. I'm always thinking, ooh, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'd love suggestions from people as we do this.
We're going to be talking about our workout. We only work out for 15 minutes a day. Show them your muscles.
Really? Let me show my muscles.
Yeah. Can you see that? It's like massive. I have muscles.
You have muscles too. I
know. Can't see them at all in the video.
I was actually very impressed the other day. You're like, I have muscles. I'm like, well, dang, you do have muscles. You go, girl.
And maintaining lean body mass is a huge element of anti-aging.
Yeah. You want to grow old well.
Maintain your lean body mass. Get strong, get lean, get healthy, get happy.
Have the mental energy and the physical energy to do
everything you're called to do.
That's right. That's really the bottom line, isn't it?
That's the bottom line.
God has a calling and has predestined every person for good works. But you have to have the physical and emotional vitality to follow through on it. Yeah. I mean, try being in faith when your physical body hurts all the time. Wear on you.
Yeah.
Wear on you big time.
We're going to talk about fasting too.
Fasting. Yeah. Awesome. Superpower. Anyways.
Superpower. Great tool. So all these really
blessings on all you people.
All these intriguing things that you're going to want to tune in. See all the.
So wherever you see it, you want to like
all the episodes.
Do the subscribe thing, the little bell on YouTube.
Share it.
On Facebook, you want to change the notifications so you get notified first.
Share it with everyone you love.
Share it.
Everyone you like, and even your enemies, because you're supposed to bless your enemies.
Yes, that's true. Bless them. Anyways, we appreciate all you guys.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.